Well, hello and welcome to a very wintry, as you can see, Nova Scotia. Welcome to my channel, The Optimistic Gardener. My name is Steve Farley. Well, you could even say it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Don't worry, I shall not subject you to any more of my dulcet tones. But yes, December the 19th, snowing, I wouldn't say heavily, but we've got a good 5 centimetres here in beautiful Nova Scotia. And you would have thought that's it for the garden year, really. Don't want to be spending much time in the garden when it's cold and wintry, etc. But winter doesn't have to be the desert of the gardening year. Lots of things to be seen, and I've been trying, even though it's a pretty new garden that I've been developing here in the Optimistic Garden, my orchard garden. I've been trying to develop it with winter in mind as well. Not just the flowers and the foliage of spring and summer, but also looking at when the winter comes, I'm out and about, likes a little bit of walking around, etc. You obviously want to have things of interest in the garden when you're walking around in the winter. So obviously we're not going to have flowers, and it's often going to be more structural. So I thought, even though I haven't got lots and lots at the moment, I've got a few things, and you can see the sort of ideas that I'm starting to develop. I'd show you a few different ideas for winter interest in your garden. Let's go and have a look, shall we? So winter is a long time here in Nova Scotia. Obviously from November time, the leaves drop, the frosts have come, and really and truly we can have snow on the ground here all the way into April, etc. So you need those different things of interest, like I said. And one of the first things I did when I've been developing the orchard garden is to think about structure and what is going to be of winter interest. And one of those, classic winter interest plants that are actually quite boring in the summer are the dogwoods, the cornus. And these red dogwoods are only small. They're only now maybe 2 years old. And I took these from cuttings from next door's big ones that she has, Bernadine, and she kindly let me take some cuttings, and I've planted a hedge of them along here, as you can see. And as they get bigger, if I cut them back every sort of spring, or some of them back every spring, they'll grow nice and tall and nice. These beautiful red, I'm not sure if you can see them that well, but in the sunshine, the red sparkles against obviously the white snow, and that's a great winter interest plant. And I've also, on that side there, got some of the, which seem to be showing up a bit more today, is the yellow cornus as well. As you can see along there, I've got alternate red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow. And when they get back, they'll display, when they get taller, they'll display nicely their colours throughout the winter, which is, one of the mainstays, a good structural plant there to give yourself some winter interest. Now, maybe not as obvious, but your grasses in winter are absolutely fantastic for a bit of interest. I've got these. I can't exactly remember which type of tall grass it is. I'm very sorry, but I mean, if you looked up tall grasses, you've got the Calamagrostis type, but lots of different types that are really good with these nice feathery foliage. But in the summertime they're absolutely beautiful, with the green and then the lovely seed heads and billowing in the breezes, etc. And I've got this grass one either side of my little area here, shady splendour as we call it. As you can see, they sort of frame the entrance to walk in there, and these beautiful in the winter time. As long as it does, even when it actually snows quite a bit, which it obviously does here, they stand up really well. And I've got them, as you can see, in different areas of the garden to provide a bit of interest. So your tall grasses, nice stiff grasses, provide some great winter interest. Beautiful architectural plants, whether it be just the colour of them against the snow, or that billowing effect. in the breeze or actually in the wind in these circumstances. But again, grass is absolutely fantastic for a bit of winter structure and interest. Another one of your classic architectural plants for winter interest, evergreen, is your box, your buxus. Absolutely beautiful when it's clipped in the various different forms. And I've got a couple here standing sentry to the entrance of the main part of my orchard. You can see it better in this picture, obviously. And you know, I've got these rocks that I dug out of the of all around me, really, to provide a sort of natural throne to view them on, a natural plinth, whatever, to view them on. And I've got them in different areas here, as you can see in the garden. You know, when it first snows, they're going to get covered over, etc. But these are going to get nice. You know, I want these nice and big as they grow older. These are, again, these are probably a couple of years that I've had them planted here. But you can, you know, in the grand gardens that you see, you have them all over the place in all different shapes. But a great plant to give you some, again, that sort of backdrop architectural interest wherever you have it in your sort of garden. And if you can imagine sort of a nice big hedge of box, providing a nice green sort of backdrop to your either the yellow or the red dogwoods, really sort of helps to pick them out and provide a sort of a nice picture backdrop for things like that. But again, these box absolutely beautiful, and I do love them. Even though they're just round balls, they're providing something for me to look at and just rub my hands over in the winter as I walk around. Now, winter interest doesn't have to be actually a plant. It could be some sort of structure. And this covered seat took the design from the legendary Gardener's Well gardener Jeff Hamilton from his cottage gardens. A nice little place to view my different structural elements of the winter garden, the dogwoods and the box, on could be a cool blue sky morning with a nice cup of tea. But a beautiful structure, could be this seat, could be just an archway, etc., with something going up the archway, etc., which again could provide a bit of winter interest. But like I said, doesn't have to be an actual plant, could be a structure to give yourself some sort of interest in the garden. I could do with a cup of tea, actually. So ever since I was a kid, one of my favourite trees has been the birch, whether it be the silver birches of home in the UK, or these, which I think this is a black barked birch or black birch, something like that. But either way, it's beautiful. I love the texture of the bark, the different shapes and the colours on the bark itself, and the texture is absolutely wonderful. And you can't see it so well now, but in the sunshine, the new growth at the top sort of glows red as well, which is really beautiful, especially against a white backdrop of the conifers behind me. So birches, or any of your interesting trees with interesting bark, peeling bark, will provide a great bit of focal interest in your garden in the winter. Now, winter, and when it snows, is one of the most beautiful times that your conifers, pine trees, can show themselves off. And I love these ones especially. I think these are white pines, maybe. But I love the sort of feathery foliage on these ones, rather than the close cropped of your your Christmas trees, etc. But as you can see all around here, they're looking equally beautiful, providing that beautiful backdrop to the garden. But I do love these especially. I do love the different, again, the textures. We've got the bark, looks beautiful, and you can see the bark obviously, rather than those Christmas tree type ones. And like I said, these feathery needles look fantastic, topped with a bit of snow. Now, this holly isn't exactly the greatest example of hollies around. It's the only one I've got in my garden at the moment. I'm actually going to move it to the orchard next year, or maybe early in the springtime. But again, holly is a great plant to have in your garden. Obviously it's evergreen, so it's got that beautiful green all the way through the winter, and if you're lucky, normally you need a couple of hollies, I think, but I'm not the holly expert, but obviously they provide some nice red berries on there for an extra bit of splash of colour. And these are also, the red berries, great food resource for the birds in late winter. We often see lots of, I think, robins here, lots of robins or some other sort of birds of that size here, big birds. The robins here, more like blackbirds in North America. We get lots of those in the sort of late winter, a little flock of them. They all come and they're all having a go at the red berries. So holly, a great, this is a slow growing holly as well. So a great plant for a bit of structure, a bit of colour in the winter garden. So last but not least, I've taken to not cutting down my perennials in the autumn time and putting them straight on the compost heap. A lot of it's to do with trying to help the wildlife, you know, the birds, giving the birds something to eat in the autumn and winter, or giving the little insects somewhere to sort of live over the winter, etc. A byproduct of that has been these lovely plants during the winter time. I can't exactly remember what these ones are. It'll be on the screen, no doubt. I've put it on there. Whether it be these nice tall ones, looking again architectural, or the little bald heads of the black-eyed Susans, they're all providing me a nice bit of interest in the winter. So I am going to be keeping these here in the future, and they're quite sturdy little fellas as well. So these should, unless we get like a 5-foot snow, last all winter. Brilliant. So there we go. I hope I've, you know, there's not too many. I'm developing my garden with the sort of winter interest, but there's a few different ideas. You know, you've got hollies, look for things that have berries in the winter. Could be the rhododendrons. You know, my rhododendron doesn't flower till sort of July time, but in the winter again, there it is, evergreen, providing a bit of interest in the garden and a bit of cover for the wildlife as well, no doubt. Hope that has been of interest to you. Let me know in your comments what sort of plants you use in your garden for a bit of winter interest, and maybe I can plant some up myself, in whether it be here in the orchard or the different areas of my garden. Last thing to say, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope 2022 is a bit better than 2021 was. It can only be up from here, I think. Job's a good one.